Picture the last time you made a sandwich. You opened the refrigerator, reached for that jar of mayonnaise, unscrewed the lid, and swiped a creamy spoonful across the bread without a second thought. That creamy white substance has been a pantry default in American kitchens for nearly a century, and most shoppers buy it on autopilot, choosing by habit rather than scrutiny. But here is what I want you to understand tonight, especially as summer potlucks, picnic coolers, and backyard barbecues multiply across the country. Mayonnaise is one of the most chemically diverse products in the condiment aisle, and the distance between the cleanest mayonnaise on the shelf and the most industrial version can be measured in a dozen ingredients, several refining processes, and a small fortune in your family's long-term metabolic health. I'm going to walk you through 5 mayonnaise categories to approach with caution this summer, and 5 that earn their place on the table because they actually resemble the simple emulsion the word mayonnaise is supposed to describe. By the end of this, you'll be able to read a mayo label like a chemist and choose like someone who cares about what goes into the people they love. Let me frame the regulatory landscape first, because mayonnaise is not a loosely defined product. The Food and Drug Administration has a standard of identity for mayonnaise, established decades ago, which requires the product to contain at least 65% vegetable oil by weight, plus egg yolk containing ingredients, acidifying agents like vinegar or lemon juice, and permitted optional seasonings. Products that don't meet that threshold cannot legally be called mayonnaise, and instead go by names like dressing, spread, or sandwich spread. The USDA and FDA jointly track foodborne illness outbreaks linked to egg-containing products, and while commercial mayonnaise is actually quite resistant to bacterial growth because of its acidity, summer potluck scenarios where mayo-based dishes sit in warm conditions for hours remain a recurring outbreak source, documented by the CDC. The World Health Organization, the American Heart Association, and the scientific nutrition community have produced a substantial body of research on the oils most commonly used in mayonnaise: soybean, canola, sunflower, safflower, olive, avocado, examining how refining processes, fatty acid profiles, and potential oxidation products may contribute to various metabolic outcomes. Peer-reviewed studies, including work published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition and in lipid research journals, have documented measurable differences between highly refined industrial oils and cold-pressed or minimally refined alternatives. In other words, the oil chosen by the mayonnaise you buy is not a cosmetic decision. It's the single most influential factor in the product's nutritional character. Let me start with the first category to approach with caution: the ultra-industrial jar, the one that anchors the condiment aisle with the cheapest price per ounce. These products typically rely on heavily refined soybean oil as the base, and the ingredient panel often extends well past the FDA's minimum mayonnaise definition to include stabilizers, calcium disodium EDTA, natural flavors that are chemically synthesized, modified food starch, sugar, or high-fructose corn syrup, and preservatives like potassium sorbate and sodium benzoate. Studies suggest that highly refined seed oils, when subjected to the bleaching, deodorizing, and high-temperature processing typical of industrial oil production, may contain trace byproducts that research indicates deserve scrutiny when consumed regularly over years. Pair that oil base with synthetic preservatives and stabilizers, and the jar starts to diverge meaningfully from the simple egg and oil emulsion mayonnaise was originally. The second category to watch is the light or low-fat variant. Marketing these jars as healthier rests on reducing fat content below the FDA mayonnaise threshold. which means they legally cannot be called mayonnaise and instead use names like light dressing, reduced fat spread, or mayo-style dressing. To maintain creamy texture with less oil, manufacturers add water and then use modified starches, gums like xanthan and guar, emulsifiers, and sometimes sugar or corn syrup to rebuild mouthfeel. The net effect is a product that trades fat for carbohydrate and industrial thickeners. Nutrition research has repeatedly questioned whether this swap represents an improvement, and a growing body of metabolic literature suggests that low-fat processed foods engineered with starch and sugar replacements may contribute to glycemic responses that offset any benefit from reduced fat intake. The third category is the flavored mayonnaise explosion. The chipotle, garlic, aioli, sriracha, wasabi, and avocado lime variants that proliferate on shelves each summer. These products take the base mayonnaise formulation and layer on natural flavors that may be chemically synthesized, additional sugars, colorants, and in some cases, acidulants that extend shelf life. Read the panel on a popular chipotle mayonnaise, and you may find 20 or more ingredients where the base product has 10. The added flavors are not inherently dangerous, but the complexity of the ingredient stack means you are consuming a more processed product than the word mayonnaise implies. If you enjoy the flavors, you can replicate them at home in minutes by mixing a clean base mayo with a teaspoon of hot sauce, a clove of minced garlic, or a squeeze of lime, and skip the engineered version entirely. The fourth category that warrants caution is the plant-based or vegan mayonnaise aimed at shoppers avoiding eggs. Some of these products are genuinely thoughtful, built on a foundation of aquafaba or soy protein with a short ingredient panel. Others are heavily processed, relying on modified starches, canola or soybean oil, synthetic emulsifiers like polysorbates, and a long list of stabilizers designed to mimic the texture of egg-based mayonnaise. The category varies widely, and a shopper who assumes that vegan automatically equals clean can end up with a product that is actually more processed than the conventional jar next to it. The lesson is the same here as everywhere. Turn the jar around and read. The fifth category to approach with caution is the gourmet or specialty mayonnaise carrying premium pricing and sophisticated marketing. These products often lean on imagery, copper bowls, French countryside, handwritten recipes, to imply artisanal production. But unless the ingredient panel and certifications back the claim, the specialty label may simply be paying for packaging. Some specialty mayos are genuinely superior, using cage-free eggs, cold-pressed oils, and minimal ingredients. Others are industrial products with better graphic design. The tell, as always, is the back of the jar. If the ingredient line extends well beyond oil, egg yolk, vinegar, lemon juice, mustard, salt, and perhaps a single natural preservative, the specialty claim is doing more work than the product. Now let me pivot to what a trustworthy mayonnaise actually looks like, so you can spot the clean options with confidence. The first category of mayo to consider are the avocado oil-based products made with minimal ingredients. Avocado oil is monounsaturated dominant, relatively stable at room temperature, and less prone to the oxidation issues that affect heavily refined polyunsaturated seed oils. Look for brands whose ingredient line reads avocado oil, organic cage-free eggs, water, organic vinegar, salt, a small amount of rosemary extract as a natural preservative, and perhaps mustard and a pinch of spice. That's the profile of a mayonnaise that's actually mayonnaise. The second trustworthy category is the olive oil-based mayonnaise made with traditional Mediterranean techniques. Extra virgin olive oil brings a polyphenol profile that research has consistently associated with favorable cardiovascular markers, though the flavor is more assertive than avocado or canola. A well-made olive oil mayonnaise will list olive oil, sometimes blended with a neutral oil. To soften the flavor, eggs, vinegar, or lemon juice, mustard, salt, and little else. The third trustworthy category is the true cold-pressed sunflower or safflower mayonnaise, particularly from producers who specify high oleic varieties. High oleic sunflower and safflower oils have been bred to mimic the monounsaturated profile of olive and avocado oils, while remaining more neutral in flavor. When paired with clean egg and acid ingredients, these mayonnaises can be genuinely clean, though you want to verify that the oil is cold-pressed rather than heavily refined, because the same seed oil produced by different processes yields very different final products. The fourth trustworthy category is the certified organic mayonnaise with third-party verification. USDA organic certification requires that the eggs, oil, and other ingredients meet organic standards, which addresses pesticide residues and synthetic additive exposure. An organic mayonnaise with a short ingredient panel and a recognizable oil base is a defensible choice, particularly for families feeding young children whose cumulative exposure to agricultural residues deserves more attention. The fifth trustworthy category, and often the best one, is the mayonnaise you make in your own kitchen. Homemade mayo takes about 3 minutes with an immersion blender and requires only 1 egg, a cup of clean oil of your choice, a tablespoon of vinegar or lemon juice, a teaspoon of mustard, and a pinch of salt. The result is a mayonnaise whose ingredients you control entirely, whose freshness cannot be matched by any shelf-stable product, and whose cost per ounce is usually lower than the premium jars. The only real trade-off is shelf life. Homemade mayo should be refrigerated and used within a week, but most families go through a batch well within that window. Let me dig into the summer-specific food safety dimension of mayonnaise, because this is where confusion tends to concentrate. Popular culture has long treated mayonnaise as the villain of the summer potluck, the ingredient blamed for every backyard food poisoning episode. The actual food science tells a more nuanced story. Commercial mayonnaise is acidic enough. Vinegar or lemon juice brings the pH down below 4.1 in most formulations, that it is relatively inhospitable to many common foodborne pathogens. In fact, adding commercial mayo to a potato salad can sometimes help suppress bacterial growth compared with a plain potato salad lacking the acidic condiment. The problem arises when mayo-based dishes include proteins, starches, or other ingredients that can buffer the acidity, and when the dishes sit at warm ambient temperatures for extended periods. Chicken salad left in a cooler whose ice has melted. Pasta salad left on a picnic blanket under direct sun. Deviled eggs left out for a 3-hour pool party. These are the scenarios where bacterial multiplication accelerates. Not the mayo itself, but the combination of ingredients and conditions. Keeping mayo-based dishes below 40 degrees Fahrenheit and moving them through serving within 2 hours is the actual safety practice, not avoiding mayo altogether. Consider the story of how mayonnaise got its industrial form in the first place. The condiment originated as a simple French sauce made fresh from eggs, oil, and acid, used within hours. The shelf-stable jar version that dominates American supermarkets emerged in the early 20th century, when food technologists figured out how to stabilize the emulsion for long storage. The innovations that made that possible, precise pH control, specific oil selection, sterile processing, preservative systems, were genuine accomplishments in food engineering. But over the decades, the industrial version drifted further from the original, incorporating cheaper oils, engineered stabilizers, and flavor enhancers that the original never contained. When you make mayo at home today, you are essentially returning to the early form of the condiment with the benefit of modern hygiene and refrigeration. That return is not sentimental. It is a real upgrade in ingredient quality. The omega-6 to omega-3 ratio question is worth taking seriously. Soybean, corn, and sunflower oils, the dominant oils in commodity mayonnaise, are rich in omega-6 linoleic acid. Nutrition research has debated the significance of the ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 intake in the modern American diet, with many researchers arguing that the ratio has shifted dramatically toward omega-6 in a way that may contribute to inflammatory patterns when combined with low omega-3 intake from fish and other sources. Swapping a commodity mayo built on soybean oil for one built on olive or avocado oil shifts the ratio meaningfully. And, for families eating mayo regularly, the cumulative effect over years is worth considering. This is not a headline-grabbing difference from a single serving, but nutritional effects tend to accumulate, and the oils in everyday condiments contribute to that accumulation. Let me address the egg sourcing question specifically. Cage-free, pasture-raised, and organic egg designations mean different things and are regulated differently. Cage-free eggs come from hens that are not confined to battery cages but may still live in crowded indoor environments with no outdoor access. Free-range eggs require some outdoor access, though the quality and amount of that access varies. Pasture-raised eggs, particularly with third-party verification, require substantial outdoor access with foraging opportunity. USDA Organic requires organic feed and no antibiotic use. Research examining the nutritional profile of eggs from different production systems has found meaningful differences in vitamin content, fatty acid composition, and carotenoid levels, with pasture-raised eggs generally showing the most favorable profile. A mayonnaise made with pasture-raised organic eggs is therefore delivering a different nutritional input than one made with commodity cage-free eggs, regardless of the oil used. Now consider the natural flavor line that appears on many mayo panels, including some marketed as clean. Under FDA regulations, the term natural flavors can encompass a wide range of compounds derived from plant or animal sources, including some that are chemically identical to their synthetic counterparts, and some that involve solvents and carriers in their extraction. The term does not tell you the number or complexity of compounds, and a single natural flavor listing can represent dozens of distinct aromatic molecules. For most consumers, this is not a health concern, but for those with specific sensitivities or a preference for transparent ingredient sourcing, the absence of natural flavors altogether, mayos built only on oil, egg, acid, mustard, and salt, represents a cleaner choice. Let me also talk about the retail dynamics that shape which mayos end up at eye level. Grocery stores optimize shelf placement for margin and sales velocity, not for nutritional quality. The best sellers sit at eye level. The newer, clean label challengers often sit above or below eye level, sometimes on end caps that rotate, sometimes in the natural foods section rather than the main condiment aisle. A thoughtful shopper will look at the full range of what the store carries, not just what the shelf layout pushes forward. Some of the cleanest mayonnaise options on the market are shelved in positions that require you to bend down or look up, and the extra 10 seconds of attention rewards you with a substantially better product. Consider the cost per use calculation rather than the cost per jar. A premium mayo with cleaner ingredients might cost 2 or 3 times what a commodity mayo costs, which looks expensive on the shelf. But mayonnaise is used in small quantities. A tablespoon on a sandwich, a couple of tablespoons in a salad, and a jar lasts weeks. The per-serving cost difference is often measured in pennies. Reframed that way, upgrading from a commodity mayo to a clean avocado oil-based mayo is one of the cheapest food upgrades available, certainly cheaper than shifting to grass-fed meat or organic produce. For families watching budgets carefully, the mayo aisle is a high-return place to spend a little more. I want to address the homemade mayo myth of difficulty. Many home cooks think making mayonnaise requires professional skill, a slow drizzle of oil, a whisk arm of steel, and the tears of a disappointed French chef. In reality, an immersion blender makes mayonnaise in about 60 seconds. Drop a whole egg into a tall, narrow jar, add a cup of oil, a tablespoon of vinegar or lemon juice, a teaspoon of mustard, a pinch of salt. Place the immersion blender at the bottom of the jar. Blend for 10 seconds without moving. Then slowly lift the blender up through the mixture. The emulsion forms automatically. The result is a mayo better than most of what you'll find on the shelf, customizable to your preferences, and made from ingredients you control. Teaching this technique to family members is one of those small kitchen skills that pays dividends for decades. Now let me give you the playbook for navigating the mayo aisle going forward. First, start with the oil question. Flip the jar. Identify the primary oil. If it's soybean, canola, or a generic vegetable oil, blend, treat that as a signal to dig further. If it's avocado, olive, or a verified high oleic oil, you're already in better territory. Second, count the ingredients. A clean mayo has 6 to 9 items. A jar with 15 or 20 is telling you about processing. Third, look for third-party certifications rather than marketing words. USDA Organic, Non-GMO Project Verified, Certified Humane for the eggs. Those labels carry audit requirements that farmhouse-style graphic design does not. Fourth, think about sugar and starch content. Traditional mayonnaise does not need added sugar. If the nutrition panel shows meaningful carbohydrate grams, either the product is a low-fat variant reconstituted with starch, or sweeteners have been added, and you should question whether that's the formulation you want. Fifth, handle mayo-based dishes with summer-appropriate care. While commercial mayonnaise is acidic enough to resist most pathogens, mayo-based pasta salads, potato salads, and chicken salads combine the condiment with other ingredients that can support bacterial growth. Keep these dishes cold. Don't leave them out longer than 2 hours, at summer temperatures, and be especially careful about coolers that get opened repeatedly at outdoor events. Sixth, store opened jars properly. Commercial mayo lasts a couple of months in the refrigerator after opening, but homemade mayo should be used within a week. Label the jar with an open date so your family isn't guessing. Seventh, consider making your own at least occasionally. The skill is genuinely simple, and once you've tasted a fresh homemade mayo, the industrial version will feel like a different product entirely. Here's what I want you to hold on to as you walk away. Mayonnaise is not complicated in its traditional form. An egg, an oil, an acid, a pinch of salt, and a moment of emulsification. That's the entire dish. Somewhere between that simplicity and the modern grocery shelf, the product became a vehicle for industrial oils, engineered textures, synthetic flavors, and shelf-life chemistry that your grandmother would not recognize. You don't have to accept that. You can choose the clean jars, reach for the shorter ingredient lists, and when you have 5 minutes on a Sunday afternoon, you can make your own and never look back. Your sandwich deserves it. Your potato salad deserves it. And the people who sit at your summer table deserve a condiment whose ingredients you can actually pronounce. Protect your pantry, read the labels, and share this with the home cook in your life who has been buying the same jar on autopilot for years. Because autopilot is exactly where the industrial food system counts on you staying.